The Seahawks are on the search for a new offensive coordinator, and a couple names have emerged here, Dave. And I remember one of them as a player anyway, and that's Hank Fraley, who's currently the Lions offensive line coach. You and I were talking a bit about him. I was like, didn't he play for the Eagles and the Rams? And that's two of the teams he played. He played for multiple teams, but now an O-line coach. He was a center, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
he was.
He's 47 years old, Lions O-line coach since 2018. So he's one of the names out there. Thomas Brown, who's the Bears interim head coach, 38 years old. He's the Bears passing game coordinator, interim OC, interim head coach this season. He was the Panthers offensive coordinator in 2023. And then the other name is another young guy, Klint Kubiak, Saints offensive coordinator, 37 years old, in his first year as the Saints offensive coordinator, and he was the 49ers pass game coordinator in 23. So looking at those, and we'll play a couple thoughts from Frank Schwab, who we had on yesterday, and Mike McDonald, but anybody blowing your skirt up, as you like to say, Dave?
Well, I mean, I know Kubiak. I know Gary, the dad. I was looking at, the numbers with New Orleans. They sure started off hot. I mean, the first 2 weeks, they scored 47 and 44 points.
Yeah.
But then, they went on a, 7-game losing streak, and, they're part of that NFC South that just wasn't very good. But, yeah, I mean, he's probably the most familiar. I mean, I think probably the one that most people would be excited about would be Fraley.
Yeah.
Just because he, he's there with Ben Johnson and the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. And that was one of the offenses that I was talking about yesterday that I would most likely would like to see here, something that reflects something that resembles that.
And he's the O-line coach of maybe the best O-line in football.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, I know they have talent too, but I like that he's connected to something that's succeeding really well in an area where it's really not succeeding for the Seahawks.
Yeah, it's funny when we talk to, I feel like some of the most enlightening conversations we have are with Ray Roberts and Mark Schlereth.
Yeah.
And because, they have it's such an unknown entity, the offensive line, and what makes it work and what makes you successful and things like that. And I feel like, when it comes to an offensive coordinator, I mean, it all starts with the offensive line. It all starts there. So,
because if that falls apart on the snap, it doesn't matter what you drew up.
Yeah.
It's out the window.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I like that. You mentioned Detroit. I mean, they have first-rounders at center and both tackles. So they have, over the years, put some time in. By the way, I mean, that was a while. I think it was Ragnow was 2016. The other tackle, whose name eludes me, not Penei Sewell. I know Sewell was, 2020, and I think the other guy was 2013 or something. Tyler Decker or something like that. So
let me look at their depth chart here.
But yeah, I mean that's a lot of talent there. But
yeah, Taylor Decker.
Yeah, I mean
2016 first round pick, 16th overall.
Yeah, I mean, and so yeah, lots of talent, but he does know offensive line. And then as far as Brown goes, I mean, that's Thomas Brown. Yeah, I don't really know much about him. But it would just have to be, I mean, it would just be interesting to be in those conversations with, John Schneider and Mike McDonald. And, because Stacy and C-Rod were asking me, I'm like, how do you think those things go? I mean, I don't really know. I mean, how is it going to be a collaboration between John and Mike McDonald, or are they on the same page, or is it hey, what about this? I think they're going to arrive at that decision sort of together. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, obviously, John has the final say. But I would be interested to see what would happen if Schneider is I don't really trust that guy, or I don't really like this part of it. And Mike McDonald is he's my guy. I got to, how does that go?
I don't know. That's a good question.
that will be, and, we'll see. We don't really know that much about the relationship between Mike and John, but I think that it's, I think John's going to have the upper edge on everything. He's going to be the one who has the final say.
He's the boss.
Yeah.
By the way, I was just looking at their starting O-line for the Lions. 4 of the 5 are first-round picks.
Oh, there's another. They're one of their guards.
The guard, left guard, Graham Glasgow is the lowest pick. He was a third rounder.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So you got 4 first rounders and a third rounder on your line. So they've made an investment there draft wise.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know. That's the name out of these 3 that jump out to me. I mean, I know Thomas Brown's in an interim head coaching position right now. They've got a atrocious O-line out there. I don't know what, if it's fair to even judge him on what's going on with the Bears or get a sense of that out there. But we talked to Frank Schwab yesterday of where's he at? Yahoo Sports.
Yeah.
And talked to him about it, obviously, a few different things. But we were talking about the offensive coordinator spot, and he explains why he thinks a younger guy would be the avenue for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that they're going to go with the young position coach type of deal. I mean, I don't know if he's really in line for a coordinator job yet, but Davis Webb, who, I'm based here in Colorado, and he's done a good job as a quarterbacks coach there. You're going to look at quarterbacks coaches and see if there's a young guy there with some good ideas. You might, go back to the well with somebody, but, that's tough, too, to get a retread. Luke Getsy. There's a reason Luke Getsy hasn't succeeded his last couple jobs, just to pull a name out of thin air there. And I think Mike McDonald this time has to really get aligned with the offensive coordinator. He needs, when he's doing these interviews, you can't have a situation where after the season where it's like, well, basically we weren't on the same page. Well, that can't happen a second time.
Yeah, it can't. They got to be on the same page. That's going to be crucial to their success, obviously.
Well, and also, we spend a lot of time talking about John and Mike and how that's going to go, but also what about the kind of players that you have? I mean, if you're going to make a commitment with Gino and stick with him for maybe the next couple 3 years, Bob, that maybe that's how much does that figure into it? What about your offensive line? Maybe I feel like the best offensive coordinator, the most appealing, would be somebody to come in and go, man, I really like your offensive line. There's some good parts there if we just ran this type of offense. But that's really what is going to be the trick is, can you run an offense that really helps these players? And I think a lot of times offensive linemen, their biggest complaint is they're asking me to do things that aren't possible.
Yeah.
And so that will be a big part of it as well. But, I think we talk about how dreadful the offensive line is and everything. And yeah, it was tough last year, but I don't know. I still think Charles Cross is a good player. I think Olu can be. I still even hold out hope for Anthony Bradford just because, I feel like his problem is just his mentality out on the field. I mean, he's big and strong, and he can move people.
It's not lack of ability with him.
It's that he doesn't finish.
Yeah.
So to be specific about it. So, yeah, I think.
And then right tackle, you got the just question of availability. Yeah. I'm that one is just intriguing to me because you feel like you got your guy when he's healthy. And he even had some problems this year. He wasn't perfect by any stretch. It felt like he came out of the gates, house of fire. He was ready to go.
49er game.
And then there are a couple moments where you're going, that didn't look so good for him. And I don't know if that's just, hey, man, this guy just hasn't been out there playing. It's going to take a while. Maybe we got too excited about that first game.
Maybe it's his knee that's holding him back. And then the other thing, like Michael Jarrell, I think that could be an interesting story. He had some good plays, but he's a guy that was a project. Same thing. Stone Forsythe falls into that category too. So they have some guys, but it would be really cool to see a coach come in here and get the best out of those guys. And again, it doesn't have to be all 5 of them. You talked about the 3 first rounders in Detroit. If you can just get
4,
your center and a couple of tackles that are playing okay, and you have an offense that fits them, that'll help.